Ruselli Northern supports upstate New York construction with over 400 employees, 250 trucks, 9 ready-mix plants, 4 blacktop plants, and 40 aggregate mines. But their most important number is your bottom line. Contact them today to see why Ruselli Northern has been the choice for contractors and project managers across upstate New York since 1929.
Everybody, welcome into Bills Weekly here on FingerLace1.com. I am Paul Russo, Jim Sinicropi, and Kyle Evans here in the studio with me. This week we get to recap what ended up being a pretty busy bye week for the Bills. And then preview Week 14 against the Chiefs, Showdown in Kansas City. So guys, happy to see you in studio this week. Jim, welcome back in. I guess before we fully get going here, last week me and Kyle kind of talked about a little bit of the, I'd say, expectations, outlook we kind of had for the Bills. You weren't here last week. I think start quickly maybe with your, maybe a minute or so on expectations and outlook for the team as we kind of roll forward here for the final 5 weeks of the regular season.
Well, they didn't put themselves in a good position through, the end of November. But the AFC right now looks like not very good overall. I mean, the Dolphins are the number 1 seed. They're tied with the Ravens at 9-3, the Jaguars 8-3, and then the Chiefs 8-4. Then you got the Steelers, Colts, and Browns at 7-5, and then you got the Broncos and Bills at 6-6. So of all those teams I mentioned, I don't think there's any of them that I don't think the Bills can beat in the playoffs. Whether they could beat Philadelphia and Philadelphia and San Francisco, I don't know, but they almost beat Philadelphia. They went to overtime. So the Bills are a Super Bowl contender still, but they got to get in. And it's not the toughest schedule remaining, but it's not the easiest either. So I'm sure we'll talk about that. They got the Chiefs on the road coming up, and then the Cowboys at home. And so we'll see where they stand after those 2 games. But as rough a season has been for the Bills, I do have some confidence in them right now, partly based on how they played at Philadelphia. But the other part is just the AFC is kind of blah right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, and obviously I think most of this conversation we'll have just because the Bills are playing Kansas City, obviously this upcoming week. But you look at last night, and once again, Kansas City didn't exactly leave you obviously confident, let alone – obviously, on paper, they lose. But if they were to win that game,
oh man,
if they were to win, I'm probably still having the same conversation point where it's like they didn't look good by any means, and it's kind of the same thing. I mean, you mentioned the AFC as a whole, Jim, and I'm sure I'll probably end up bringing up this point again here later on. But I mean, me and you were talking off air a little while ago, kind of about it, and like the only team that yesterday, at least AFC-wise, looked really good was Miami, and once again, they played a sub-500 team, so it's like...
You remember, the Bills beat Miami 48-20.
Yeah.
I mean, it was back on October 1st, but, and they got the Chiefs coming up, but the Chiefs just got decimated by injuries last night.
Mm-hmm.
They're down to their 3rd-string middle linebacker. They had the other guy in the secondary that got that gruesome injury.
Oh, yeah.
And the Kansas City receivers are horrible.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, I think the Kansas City is 8-4, just kind of on the back of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. But I think that the Bills could beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. They're coming off an extended break. Well, the Chiefs played the Sunday night game. That's a little less rest. But overall, the Bills are going to come in rested, and it's somewhat full strength. And so we'll see.
Yeah. All right, let's touch on some news that happened over the bye week here quickly. Begin with Von Miller. Turned himself in Thursday after an arrest warrant was issued for allegedly assaulting a pregnant woman who was apparently his girlfriend. Glen Heights Police Department in Texas, suburban Dallas, confirmed that he turned himself in late in the afternoon to face a charge of third-degree felony assault of a pregnant woman, which is punishable by 2 to 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. He was booked in DeSoto Tri-City Jail on a $5,000 bond and released a short time later. This is not the first time that he has been accused of assault in this regard. Kyle, you were kind of like one of the first ones to really tell me about this as it kind of broke through the week last week. And obviously Von Miller has been a big topic of our discussions here as we kind of wonder where he's been. But the fact of the matter is, I would assume that we probably have seen, at least for the next few weeks at the very least, the last of Von Miller on the active roster.
Yeah, I was actually driving in here on Wednesday morning and I saw the tweet pop up and I was like, what? Is this really true? And I clicked it. Sure enough, I'm like, man, I didn't expect to read this on the bye week. But yeah, just not a good situation at all for him or the team. I know he hasn't been playing that well anyway, but you don't need that kind of distraction on, especially the last 5 games. I mean, they're still right there, like Jim said, competing for a playoff spot, still, have high hopes if they get in the playoffs. So yeah, this is the last thing you need. And remember, they just signed him to that big contract, 2 years ago now? So he's still under contract. They're still paying him a lot of money. I know if there's some workings in his contract that can happen if the NFL suspends him where they won't have to pay him a certain amount of money, but it's just still not what you want, and just a terrible thing for him to even do or think of doing to anyone, especially a woman. You don't ever do that.
He was, we were all expecting him to get back to full strength as the season went on. He never got the full reps. Snap count was down, but we're still thinking, okay, he's eventually going to come back. And then now this happens. And so, I think it's going to be tough to factor him in going forward here because you don't know what's going to happen here. He might be done for the year.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think, too, obviously, we've seen players come back in a way, right?
Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill.
But yeah, this is like I said, this is the second time at least he's been accused of assault on a woman. And you have to look at it, too, unfortunately, from the playing element of it, let alone the human side of it, which if all this ends up being true, right, we live in the innocent until proven guilty side of things here. If all this comes to be true, I'd imagine, in my mind anyway, he's played his last snap in the NFL as it stands right now. I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze playing-wise for him anymore, but from the playing element of it, right, you bring it up, Kyle, this is a huge knock on the Bills' monetary side of things here. They have $120 million locked up on Von Miller, right? And
the cap situation isn't good
right,
to begin with.
Exactly. So, at the very least, I'd imagine we probably have seen him play his last snap as a Buffalo Bill. I'll go ahead and say that. I think the Bills will have to eat the contract no matter what to a certain degree, whether cut, waive, trade, you name it, either way. But to me, in my mind, I think he's done in the NFL. Like I said, this is the second time he's been accused of it. If there's, to me, where there's smoke, there's fire, in a sense. And it wasn't all that long ago that the first accusation came up. It's 2021 was the first time it came up, not even a full 2 years ago, more or less. And for it to come up again, I think this guy, he's done. I don't know.
Might find a spot in the NFL somewhere. If he can still play, somebody will sign him. But as far as the Bills go, he's probably not going to help them this year. And they're a little short-handed on defense.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think because of the history of the league, like I mentioned, Kareem Hunt, Deshaun Watson, these guys always find their way back. They might be out of the game for a little while. But I do agree with you. He's, Von's getting older. What is he, 35? Mm-hmm. He's already played, 14 seasons, something crazy like that. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree with him. I think he'll find somewhere to play again. I don't think it'll be with the Bills. And I don't know if you saw the report later Friday night. Now the alleged victim said that there was no assault. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, she spoke to a Dallas TV station and said that this is blown out of proportion and there was no assault. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if she's just now going to back out of like this whole situation, and now he's not going to be in trouble. I think we're gonna have to wait and find out. But I
Usually it
don't
doesn't
think
work
he'll be
that
returning
way.
this year.
I don't know. I mean, I don't I don't disagree, right? Because these guys do come back, but all this depends too. I mean, Ray Rice was out of the NFL pretty quick, you know, and I know that was gruesome, but like what Kareem Hunt did wasn't all that different, you know.
Yeah.
Greg Hardy found himself out of the NFL pretty quick. I don't know. I think it just depends how teams value your usefulness.
Yeah, sadly, it depends on how good a player they are.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like if you're good enough, somebody will take a chance on you, right?
yeah, I mean it's. I mean, it goes back to something, you know, Kyle, that me and you discuss a lot. You know, we haven't, you know, maybe lately, but you know, the element of you look in baseball with Trevor Bauer is, you know, I don't know if anybody in the MLB necessarily is going to value him enough to bring him back at this point, but
Yeah,
I mean,
but
he's certainly
didn't he
finding
get
it.
a raw deal? Like the good.
Well,
Yeah.
yes and no.
Not charged anymore.
I mean, there's still a few cases in the system. That's the issue with that. I don't know.
Oh, even look at right here. I was pulling up a list of NFL players who have been suspended. 2017, Ezekiel Elliott, 6
Right.
games for
I
domestic
forgot about
violence.
that.
Yep.
So that's what I mean. These guys just find their way back.
Right.
It all comes down to like what player you are and money, really. That's it.
Oh, it's interesting too because you mentioned that, and I kind of forgot about. But you know, look at Adrian Peterson. I mean, he came back after the suspension and more or less only had a job for a year and bounced around the league for the rest of his career afterwards.
2015,
You know?
Greg Hardy, 10-game suspension for domestic violence.
Yeah.
And he was back. So,
I mean, and I got to go back to Tyreek Hill as being the prime example. He's, you know, nobody remembers that
Right.
because he's just,
Yep.
you know, running up and down the field for Miami now.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot of remains to be seen because of how late in the season it is anyway. I'm guessing we won't have any answers until the end of the regular season anyway, really more or less with it.
Yeah, who cares about
know.
Von Miller, honestly? You know, like when he went down 2 years ago when the Bills were looking like Super Bowl contenders, that kind of, you know, and ever since then, they've never been back to that
Yeah,
level.
yeah.
And one just, you know, Von Miller, at his age, I don't think is a difference maker anymore. But that 1 year, you know, they were really looking like one of the best teams in football. You know, 2 years ago now, was it?
Yeah.
And he gets hurt, and their defense was never the same.
Right.
But you know, it's a new era now. I think you move on from Von Miller, and you look at the rest of the schedule here, and you're gonna have to try to do it with the personnel that you have on hand and healthy.
All right, speaking of personnel, one thing to touch up on last week that me and you, Kyle, discussed a lot of that in-game confrontation in Philadelphia with the fans involving Shaq Lawson, Jordan Phillips, and Greg Rousseau. Fan made threatening statements to the players, their families. The players apologized, but I go back and stand on my stance that I had last week a little bit on that. Team is investigating. By team, I mean the Eagles. Hasn't been anything too much outside of that update from last week about. But it is funny, Kyle, how once again we kind of get done recording and we get the update from the players and the teams how that kind of usually works. So I haven't seen much of anything come from it outside of last Wednesday when we got the statement from the Eagles saying they're investigating the incident and kind of moving it along. But
Philadelphia Eagle fans are trash.
yeah.
Philly Eagles fans are trash. They're the worst fans in the NFL. It's a football game, guys. Like, you know, somebody shows up at your stadium wearing the opposing team's jersey, you know, get over it. You know, from throwing batteries at Santa Claus to you know, the type of
The snowball game.
the snowball game there to the type of you know, language and actions that are young people are exposed to when they go to those games. I mean, get over yourselves, Phil. You know, you guys are really trash, terrible people, terrible fans.
yeah, as we talked about last week, Paul, you saw the video of that little kid
Yeah.
who was probably, 8 or 10 years old, going up to
9 or 10, yeah.
an opposing fan and sticking his middle finger up
Yeah.
because he probably learned it from his parents.
Right.
I mean, you got kids now that are just, being crazy, and you got fans that are threatening other opposing teams' families. Like,
Yeah, you got a good team. Like, have a little decorum, I guess, you know? I mean, it really is. It's disgusting. And you know what? Philadelphia Eagles ownership, allows it to happen. And, one of these days, somebody's going to get, seriously hurt.
Yeah.
Go to the game, cheer for your team, root against the other team, but there's limits into the way you can act. Just because you buy a ticket doesn't give you to conduct yourself in a way that, potentially could be considered illegal.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's more also what I said last week, right? Is, how would you like it if you went to work and you just had people over your shoulder the whole time, just, threatening your mom and dad or something like that, right? Like, it's ridiculous, frankly. Yeah, and then not to, I don't want to defend what Greenlaw did for San Fran last night, but it looks like it's a lot of an organizational type thing for the Eagles at the moment, where you have not even true team personnel in that standpoint of the game element getting involved now in these types of things. It's just, Philly's a madhouse right now, it seems like, with kind of this
Yeah, it's the
acting-
thing. And
acting
the
of-
Philadelphia Phillies baseball fans aren't that way. I mean, they're a little, they're like pretty passionate and intense, but I mean, the Eagles fans are just horrible, horrible people. Honestly, like disgraceful. Look in the mirror. You're a horrible, horrible person if you are one of those Eagles fans that takes part in that type of stuff. And you got a good
Yeah.
team, and the team doesn't reflect the fan base. Like that's a pretty good, solid, stand-up team. Jalen Hurts is a professional. You watch him in his press conferences. He's like, well-spoken. Doesn't, well-dressed for those. Puts himself together. Guys like Jason Kelsey, head coach, the coaching. So I don't know. It's a good team. I'm not talking about the team. I'm talking about the fans.
Yeah, Philly fans in general. I guess the Phillies would be the maybe fourth in line out of that. I mean, the Flyers have, their fans kind of adopted the Broad Street Bullies element, and the Sixers fans, mainly the incident with Russell Westbrook a few years ago always stands out. So, but yeah,
I mean, it's sports, guys. Like get over yourselves.
Yeah. So, all right, let's focus back here to the real stuff at hand here with the Bills. Going forward, 5 games left. Kicks off Week 14 in Kansas City against the Chiefs. As you mentioned, Jim, right? You come off the Chiefs game, you got the Cowboys after that. But really the task at hand being the Chiefs and the AFC, and this is huge for kind of a bunch of different reasons, right? I mean, as you mentioned, the AFC is just not that great this year. There's no, I don't think, kind of way to sugarcoat it, frankly, at this point.
There's solid teams
Yeah.
up and down, and even at 5-7, you got the Chargers who haven't looked great.
What a
but
win yesterday, 6-0.
6-0.
That's gross.
But yeah, the Bills are just one of right now 10 teams who could still come out of the AFC and go to the Super Bowl to probably get their butt kicked by San Francisco or Philadelphia.
And the good news is a lot of these teams that are ahead of them play each other. I looked at the remaining schedules for each team, and I actually wrote them down here. For example, the Browns play the Texans. The Texans play the Colts. So they're kind of playing each other. So if one team beats up on 2 of these teams and hands them losses, and the Bills take care of their own business, they actually really have a shot here. And obviously Kenny Pickett's now down for the Steelers. Trubisky should still do a good enough job to help them win games, but you wonder if that changes if the Steelers drop from the 1, down further, or the Browns have lost 2 in a row now. The Colts have won 4 in a row. They're kind of due for some losses coming up. Barely beat Tennessee yesterday.
They did their best to yesterday. That's for
So, yeah, I really agree. I think the Bills are very much in this. Again, they have to take care of their own schedule, but I think they should get some help. I think if they win 4 or 5, they have a chance, but I do still think they kind of need to win all their games to have a chance.
The sad part is that they could have beat the Eagles before the bye week, like they had that game. And if they had won that game, all of a sudden now they're at 7-5, and we're feeling really good about things. But now their backs against the wall. I think they need to win I think there's a shot if they win 3 of their last 5. I think 4 of their last 5, and they're in.
And I also don't remember like how the tiebreakers work with all these other teams. So
It's not looking good for the Bills when you look at tiebreakers.
yeah, and the
I know
conference
that.
records. So I don't know. It's gonna be tough. That's why I think 4 or 5 gives them a chance. But I feel like winning out just guarantees it.
How sick though, man. I mean, you're looking for just any wins right now to, you look back and they lost to the Patriots.
It's so hard to believe.
And they lost to the Jets, It's
Yeah, they're 2-6 in one-score games this year. Imagine if they were just 4-2.
yeah, they'd be looking up.
Where my
They'd
math is wrong, like 6-2.
they'd
or
be
reverse
up
it.
there with the in the top 4.
Yep.
I view it as they don't have any wiggle room. I don't maybe necessarily disagree with maybe even like 3-2. You get 3 of the next 5.
But if
But
one of
here's
those
the- but
wins
here's
is
the
against
issue, though.
AFC, that drops them.
Right, but here's the issue with that though. They're 1-4 on the road. Obviously 3, including this weekend's on the road. I mean, they need a lot of help around them to at least get into that 7 spot.
We'll be sitting here feeling a
Yeah.
lot better about it if they beat the Chiefs this week.
I mean, if we came back this time next Monday, right, and they have a win, no matter of any sort, right, whether it's game-winning, ugly, blowout, doesn't matter. I mean, I think that definitely makes you go into it, the very least, next week against Dallas with a completely different mindset and viewpoint of how the rest of the season goes. If they come out and they get that win, I might be coming in here next week with a completely different attitude and viewpoint, because who knows what else might happen, right? I mean, Kyle, you mentioned, right, the Browns and the Texans still have to play each other and stuff like that. And you mentioned, obviously, Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett going down, and I do think Mitch Trubisky is all right, but they struggled mightily against the freaking Cardinals with him, so I don't know what to expect there.
Well, right now the
You know?
Chiefs are 8-4 and in the 4 seed. If the Bills beat them, they will move to just 1 game behind the Chiefs.
Yeah.
The Chiefs will fall to 8-5, and the Bills would be 7-6.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
But the
so
difference there, though, is that Kansas City is their division leader. The Bills would still be, in theory,
Well, they'd
depending
be
on how we
going
view
for
it,
a
2
wild
games
card,
behind.
but yeah, it's just you got to win. You got to win. They had a chance against the Eagles to get back one of those bad losses with a road win against a team that you were underdogs against, and now you got the Chiefs. I don't know if the Bills will be underdogs against the Chiefs, though. Honestly, is the line out yet?
I have the answer for that, yeah.
I mean, if they are, I bet you by kickoff it's close to a pick. I mean, you get the 2.5 to 3 point home field advantage usually when Vegas makes the lines. But with all those injuries the Chiefs had last night and how horrible their receivers are, absolutely horrible. That's Patrick Mahomes was going to come down and win the game last night, or at least try to tie the game, and Sky Moore ran the wrong route and it was an interception. Not only can't these receivers for the Chiefs catch, but they also seem to not be on the same page with Mahomes. And, with the performance that the Bills put up at Philadelphia, putting up 37 points, and the fact that the Chiefs' defense is beat up and the offense isn't that great, I like the Bills. I like the Bills at Kansas City and the whole bye week. You saw what a bye week did for San Francisco against Philadelphia this week.
And if you want to hear a stat, if you like stats, Sean McDermott has never lost following a bye week.
Oh, wow, that's great.
The inverse papers.
Yeah, that's a good thing on your coaching resume, because it shows when you're given more time to prepare and stuff.
And the Bills have won 2 straight at KC in the regular season. Remember last year they beat them 28-24 and then 34-20 in 2021.
Yeah, there's no reason to think the Bills can't win this game, and they have to win it. I mean, let's
Wait
face
a
it.
second. Hold on. I don't mean to interrupt. I just realized something. You mean to tell me that the Kansas City Chiefs never came to Buffalo?
They
In
did.
this run?
That was earlier in 2021. They played twice.
Oh, okay.
Or was it the COVID year, 2020?
Okay.
And it was pouring, and they got beat.
Okay.
Yeah. The last 2 have been in KC.
I was about to say. I'm like, wait a second. Okay, yeah, let me handle the housekeeping stuff of this game. 4:25 on CBS. Kansas City 8-4, 4-2 at home following last night's loss, 19-27 at Green Bay. Patrick Mahomes 301 and 444. 3,137 yards, 22 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Isaiah Pacheco, 176 carries, 779 yards on the ground with 6 touchdowns and 1 left hook and 1 ejection. And Travis Kelce, 74 receptions for 813 yards, 5 touchdowns. Chiefs currently sit 4th in the NFL defensively, allowing 297 yards per game, 183 through the air, and 144 on the ground. The answer to your question, Jim, the Bills are a 3-point dog at the moment.
So given the home field, that means that if it was a neutral field, it would probably be a pick.
Right.
I think that line's going to move closer towards Buffalo as the week goes on, because after watching the game last night, knowing the depth of the injuries for Kansas City on defense, and how important this game is for Buffalo, and that they're coming off the bye week, all that stuff, I'm just surprised that if I was setting the line right now, I'd probably have it close to a pick, or maybe Chiefs +1 or -1.
Okay. Other than that, 47.5 is your over-under line. Weather at the moment projected to be 40 degrees and cloudy at Arrowhead. So slightly better than maybe yesterday in Green Bay for the Chiefs, but quote-unquote football weather nonetheless at this time of year.
So just look at this scenario. The Bills go in next week to Kansas City and come out with a win, which isn't something, as Kyle said, that's too far-fetched. They've done it the last 2 times they've gone there. They're coming off the bye week. All those reasons. They get this win. Now they get the Cowboys at home. Now, don't you think if the Bills beat the Chiefs, that when the Cowboys come to Highmark, that the Bills are favorites in that game?
I would imagine.
So then you got the Chargers and Patriots. Obviously, the Bills will be heavily favored in both of those, even though it's got to go at San Diego. But still, man, they looked terrible yesterday. And then the final home game at Miami, where they probably will be underdogs on the road. But they could go into that game at Miami at 10-6.
And for what it's worth, with the Chargers, and I know it's not the same team here, but the point stands because it's a known thing with these LA teams, right? Cleveland played the Rams yesterday in LA, and it might as well have been a Browns home game. I will guarantee that the Mafia is going to probably hold a 70% capacity in SoFi Stadium during that game. So.
Yeah, it's just more of the traveling part, and I think that might be a Saturday game too, which would be a 6-day. A little bit of a donut game too, coming off the Chiefs and the Cowboys. But all you can do is beat the team in front of you, and that's the Chiefs this week. And if they do, we'll be sitting here next week feeling a lot more confident about their chances.
Right
Now, if they lose, man, their back's really against the wall. If they lose, they probably can't lose another game.
And if you're going to lose, you're going to want to lose to an NFC team, which would be the Cowboys, because it would mess the conference record up. And, also you got to look at they're 1-4 on the road, right?
Yeah.
They got to start winning games on the road. 3 of their 5 remaining games are on the road. So they got to start playing better on the road somehow.
So let's say
they
the
played
Bills
well in Philly.
do win 4 straight, and they go to 10-6 for that January 7th game against Miami. Dolphins are now at 9-3. I'm just wondering if there's any chance that game could have divisional implications. They would need Miami to lose 2-3 games of their next 4, so probably not. So it's looking like wild card for sure for the Bills.
Especially too. Obviously it depends, but with the Chiefs falling to 8-4, I believe that puts Miami in the 1 slot. Obviously the game up, right? And this is the time.
And the Ravens are ahead of, technically the Jaguars are a half game ahead of the Chiefs too.
And if they win tonight, the Jags are 9-3 too.
Yeah.
Okay, so Miami more or less here. With I guess Jacksonville and Baltimore in a way, right? But you have more or less those guys are vying for the 1, which puts them in that bye slot potentially. And who knows if Miami even loses the 1, but they find themselves locked into like the 2 or the 3. Who knows what might happen with that, because they might also end up just sitting people that game potentially to some degree.
Imagine if Week 18 was Miami fighting for the number 1 seed, and the Bills win and they're in.
Yeah.
That'd be perfect. And I think that would be flexed to the Sunday night game.
You would
be
imagine. Yeah. All the Week 18 games, that's the kind of one – I'll go with the one positive I do like about Week 18 is all the games are TBA. You don't know what time, what slot they're going to be in that Sunday. So, you know, that'd be nice. I think it would help too. I mean, not to do the whole entire song and dance about weather, but I mean, a night game in Miami is a lot better than a 1 o'clock game in Miami, even that time of year. You know, brings the humidity down a little bit. You're not, frankly, dying in pads, as I call it. So
Just make it interesting is what I'm saying.
Yeah, first things first, beat the Chiefs this week
right.
on the road. Their season really is on the line.
Yeah, that's kind of my viewpoint on it.
Wait, can I say something quick? I just like the Dolphins schedule. They still play the Cowboys and the Ravens. So
Where are those games for them?
This is at home against Dallas and at Baltimore. And it's back-to-back weeks.
So if they lose those games and the Bills somehow can win out, that game at Miami could be to finish tied with Miami, and we would have beaten Miami twice.
So they have the tiebreaker.
So there's lots of scenarios that play out for the Bills, but all is contingent on them winning football games, and it's something they have not been able to do consistently through the course of the season. Just when you think that they are about to get over the hump, they lose, whether it was to the Jacksonville Jaguars in London, and then the Patriots after just surviving the Giants barely. They had a chance against the Bengals when Burrow was back healthy, and they lost that game. They lost to the Broncos, and then that Eagles game last weekend. That was another great chance. Every time the Bills have had these opportunities to kind of get ahead of the wild card race pack and gain a advantage, they've failed. So we'll see what they do this week.
It's Haley Steinfeld versus Taylor Swift this weekend. So
if you had your choice, Mike Tomlin or Sean McDermott to coach the Bills, not that would ever happen. I'm just wondering because I'm looking at a team like the Steelers who came into the season without any type of the roster that the Bills had. And here they are, at 7-5 and in the playoff hunt.
Is this where the Greater Bills audience learns that I'm about the biggest Mike Tomlin hater on the planet?
Jeez, you can't argue with the results.
I don't disagree. I just,
So you'd take McDermott?
As it stands right now, I'd probably take McDermott. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'd really want fully either of them, but if you're having me to pick two, I'd go McDermott.
Well, I will say this: if Mike Tomlin was coaching this team, they wouldn't have had too many men on the field against the Denver Broncos. And they probably wouldn't be 2-6 in one-score games. So, I don't know. I'm not big on Sean McDermott. He hasn't proven anything. They're 8-15 in one-score games the last 3 years. I think it's some coaching.
Yeah, I like McDermott, but he hasn't proven himself yet, like Kyle said.
He's made the culture better, but that's about it.
Oh boy!
But now I don't know.
I'm afraid of culture talk with my team. So,
well, remember they broke the drought with Sean in his second year, and they've made the playoffs every year. But now we have this year.
He hasn't been able to take the next step.
Right.
Where it looked like they were on the doorstep to take the next step. And remember, like the only thing that's going to satisfy Bills Mafia is a Super Bowl championship. There's a franchise that's never won one and has been close. So close several times, not for a long time, but now finally, after all these years, you got your quarterback, you got your star wide receiver, and you think you got this Super Bowl caliber roster, and it just isn't happening this year.
Yeah. I think for me though, if I had to choose a coach, could I kind of expand it out besides those two? Fran Brown. Anybody?
Fran Brown, yeah.
Brown?
Well, the Bills have stolen Syracuse's football coach in the past.
That's true. And the Patriots. So it's all coming together.
Mm-hmm.
How about that? Okay, anyway, let's get back on track here. Do a little predictions, I guess, for the game ahead. I get the sense of where at least you are, Jim, with this game anyway, so I guess I'll turn it over to you.
I'm confident. I got the Bills beating the Chiefs 34-29.
Ooh. Little shootout action.
Yep.
Love it. Kyle?
If Jordan Love can throw for over 360 and 3 touchdowns,
right,
Josh Allen's going to have a day.
Maybe higher scoring.
Give me 30-23 Bills.
Okay.
Cover that easily.
I do agree at least with the Bills' victory portion of it. I don't know if it gets to quite being a shootout.
It's going to be like the Philly game, 27-21.
I think kind of something, yeah, like my initial prediction along those lines. I'll go Bills. I'll go Bills 26, Kansas City 18.
Unanimous that we think the Bills are going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs
Probably
on the
not.
road. That's great. I love it. So good. They got to win that game.
I apologize to the Bills in advance for causing a great jinx.
Yeah, remember last night on NBC, everyone chose the Chiefs. Literally every single person, and you saw what happened.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the Chiefs were exposed last night. They're not that good. I mean, yes, Patrick Mahomes is great. Pacquiao is a great back, obviously. The defense is decimated by injuries and not anything that they were, back in September and October. And the Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers are pathetic. They are just horrible.
Yeah, the Chiefs are lucky, though, after they play the Bills. They get the Patriots, Raiders, Bengals, and Chargers.
Raiders are scrappy, though.
Yeah, well, remember they scored the first 14 points and then gave up the next 31.
Yeah, they're 5-7 there.
Yeah. So the Chiefs, even if they did lose to the Bills, they kind of got an easy ride the rest of the way. But this league is crazy, as we've seen. So anything could happen, I guess.
For sure. It's the beauty of NFL any given Sunday. And soon to be Saturdays as well. So.
Yep.
Alrighty, guys. Appreciate you. Remember to tune in Thursday. Betting predictions, because we have one college game this weekend at least that we could predict, but other than that, it's full-fledged NFL pretty much from here on out.
Army Navy?
That's right. The best one of them all.
Under.
Well, that's more than likely. You guys know where that game's being played this year, by the way? Any guesses?
Not in Philadelphia?
Not in Philadelphia.
Oh, I read
Annapolis?
that the other day.
Annapolis is your guess?
Yeah, it is a guess. I have no idea.
Okay. Kyle?
Oh, I don't have a guess, but I remember reading it. My memory's bad. Somewhere.
Foxborough, Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
They're doing the thing now where they're cycling to the, I guess the original bigger city area types for the next few years, like they've been doing. Philly, I think next year MetLife, I'm pretty sure. So, I think it's kind of pretty cool that they do that. But either way,
Yeah, whatever.
yeah. So. All right, so thanks for listening and watching, everybody. You can find Bills Weekly here on FingerLakes1.com, the FO1 YouTube channel, all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Amazon Music. We'll be back again next Monday at 10 a.m. Let's go, Buffalo.